Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here Mr. DB Marshall. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing wonderful, man. I'm doing awesome today.
That's what I love to hear. Now, this channel has been designated to try to bring some positivity and some motivation, some inspiration. And I mean, you have a lot of that. I mean, you're an
Yeah.
author, you've got the website, you do a podcast,
hmm
and it's helping people kind of overcome adversities, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
And
Yeah.
so, would you say kind of like a life coach? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I try to call myself a wellness coach, and I don't have anything about against the term life coach, I definitely think they are needed. But when I started looking at who I am and what I'm becoming or who I'm becoming and what I like to give to the world, I see myself more of a wellness mentor coach.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get into all that, just let's get to know a little bit more about
All
you,
right.
like where you were born, raised, all that good stuff.
I am from Miami, Florida. I was born, might as well say right there near the beach, by the beach, on the beach, because most of my life considered really the beach. And I always tell people I was poor. There's a difference between poor and po. You know what I'm saying? And they was like, well, what's the difference? I was like, well, thanks to the government, we were able to get, milk and food stamps and welfare cheese. And if you don't know what welfare cheese is, this really thick block of cheddar cheese. And
Oh
the
yeah.
milk wasn't the liquid milk, it was powdered milk. So we actually had to add water in it. And I always thank the government. I know some people have issues with the government, but the government saved me and my family's life. And so that's where I'm originally from. And not only that, what I loved about Miami is just that the fact I was just exposed to so many races, ethnicities, and different cultures and religions. So I grew up around Haitians and Jamaicans and Cubans and Puerto Ricans. And it was just, I mean, I hung out with Jewish people. So it was just always a big old family. And that was the type of community I was raised in and brought up in.
Oh, see, that's the way to be when you're exposed to all kinds of different cultures and
Mhm.
things. That helps to expand your own life. But
Mhm.
speaking of that government cheese, those made the best freaking sandwiches.
Yes, the best grilled cheese sandwiches
That was
ever.
Those were the bomb. I don't care, yeah, maybe it was that free stuff, but man,
Yeah,
they made good sandwiches.
yeah, they really did.
That was
I forgot
one of
about
the
that.
that's
Thank
one
you
of
for
the best
bringing it
parts of childhood, man.
back. I love it.
So, you went from Miami and now you're in Atlanta?
Yeah, so roughly about, I want to say I was 19, 18 or 19 years old. I had to be 19. And I remember just wanting something different, right? And so when we moved into HUD housing, it kind of brought us out of the project and exposed me to, oh my God, my neighbors have a swimming pool in the backyard. And I was like, oh my God, like we're rich. But I didn't realize the situation that we were in until high school, when I would go to school and we have conversations and what their parents did and what my parents did and all of that good stuff. And so at the age of 19, I said, I want more. I want to try to change my life. I want to get out of Miami and do something different. So I kid you not, true story. I had recently bought a Geo Metro, was like my baby. And I had a total of $1,600 that I saved because I was a manager at Burger King. And I drove and I drove and I drove until I couldn't drive anymore. And I landed in Atlanta.
No, wow. Are
Yeah.
you familiar with Smyrna?
Yes. Not
My
too far
aunt,
from Smyrna.
yeah, my aunt used to live there, so that's the
Okay.
only reason why I know about it. But yeah, I've always wanted to get into Georgia and visit. I hear there's some real beautiful spots around there.
Yeah, man. If you really like forestries and trees and like grass, I mean, it takes 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour to get anywhere. In
Hmm.
Miami, it took us literally 5 to 10 minutes to get to, the next city over or the next community. But here it takes a minute. But if you really appreciate land and just agriculture, Atlanta is definitely a beautiful spot.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I moved away from Houston. I grew up around there, spent 47 years of my life there. So
Mhm.
3 years ago, we moved here to Austin, and just for that reason, the
Mhm.
hills, the trees, the nature, everything. And plus, sometimes you need a change.
Mhm.
So, what got you into to doing what you're doing right now?
Well, it started. Well, I've always been somewhat of a healthy, athletic type person, so I
Mhm.
would always go to the gym and exercise and things of that nature. So I was exploring trying to become a amateur bodybuilder. So I really got into the gym heavy. Had a different personal trainers. I had a nutritionist and a couple of other people that was helping me out. But on that journey, I was in graduate school working on my doctorate degree, and I was walking to the gym and I collapsed.
Oh no.
Yeah, out of nowhere. And so what does the average man usually do when he falls on the floor on a concrete ground? He gets up and he makes sure nobody's looking, not isn't looking. So, because you feel a little embarrassed. But I got up and I went to the gym. Did I, most women would probably went to the emergency room, but I did what a man probably would do and just go to the gym, just make sure I got my body right. But eventually I drifted off to the emergency room and they couldn't find out what was going on. They kept sending me back home and say, hey, you just overworked, you over loading on your studies, and you're just stressed out. They kept saying it was stress. And that happened about 3 visits. And I went to see a different doctor. And that fourth doctor was like, hey, there's something I think is going on with your kidneys. And I was like, like what can be going on? Your creatinine level. And I was like, creatinine. So at the time, I didn't know what a creatinine was. So I was
Mm.
like, oh, my creatine, because I was taking creatine supplement. So they was like, oh, no, it's two different things. And so they explained it to me. And once they did some lab work, then they did ultrasound of my kidneys and things of that nature. And it was like, well, it doesn't look like it's too much going on. Let's try to do a biopsy. And that's when they did a biopsy and learned that I had a rare kidney disease called FSGS. And that just changed my whole world, changed the trajectory of everything that I had planned and everything that I had in a pipeline to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, like typical guys, when you're growing up, you think, man, and nothing ever happens to me.
Right.
I'm one of the exceptions. Nothing bad's going to happen to me.
Mhm.
I'm when I was 36 years old, I went through this period where I was getting these headaches, felt run down. You know how when you just lay around and watch TV, you get the lazies. I felt like that,
Mhm.
and I was working from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 11 o'clock at night. And anyway, this went on for a while, and finally one day I decided I was going to get up early, and I was just going to start working around the house, get my energy built up, my whole momentum going. Got to work, the whole all the way to work. I felt like almost like I want to say almost a euphoric feeling, like if you
Mhm.
smoke some marijuana or something.
Mhm.
I got to work feeling terrible, but I was bound determined I was going to finish my shift. Went to my boss's office to get my assignments for the evening, and all of a sudden, my heart started pounding.
Wow.
Couldn't catch my breath. My boss jumps up. He's yelling in my face, but it sounds like he's down the hallway. He said my eyes rolled up in my head. Mind you, I'm 36 years old. I was having a heart attack right there in my boss's office.
Oh, wow.
And luckily, the MDs were right next door, and got me to the hospital. Say 36 years old, you don't think of things like that. It
Right.
gets when I'm 60 or 70.
Mhm.
No. So when your body starts telling you things, you really need to listen.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't know why we tend to do that. I try to even chase, look back to some of, what my father did. And my grandmother, I'm not my grandmother, my grandfather passed away when I was one. So I didn't have that generation represented as I was trying to do this research. But I don't know, even I'm a social worker, even according to the research and statistics, they say men are just not likely to go to the doctor when they're feeling sick. Like they would literally just sit there and deal with whatever pain that they're experiencing and won't go to the doctor. And they, don't go get their annuals like most women do every year. And it's just definitely something that we need to change as a gender.
Especially if you care about your family,
Yes. Yep.
because you really should care about yourself. But you know, guys are just guys. They think they can handle anything. And, you know, now, I mean, if I get the flu or something like that, and I just go to bed, take some
Mhm.
vitamins, drink my orange juice. But if I'm starting to feel those weird feelings like I had before, then
Mhm.
I go to the doctor. You know, I had that shooting pain in my shoulder all the way up and down my arm, and I'm thinking I'm having another heart attack. So I went to the emergency room. They did a bunch of tests, found out that my neck was out of line and the disc was gone. And so,
Wow.
you know, you just don't never know.
You don't. And the body is so complicated, and I try to remind people of that. Like, it has to be in sync, and when it's not in sync, we call what I like to call chemical imbalance. So even when I talk to people about mental health, I try to erase that stigma, and I'm pretty sure the mental health community is eventually going to go down this route, but at some point I do believe they're going to stop calling it mental health and calling it a chemical imbalance, because initially that's what it is, right? Your
Right.
body is just kind of off, and it's not that it's all just in your mind. It's the fact that the chemicals in your whole entire body are just thrown off, and we need to add a treatment or some type of supplement or a regimen to help manage those imbalances. And so hopefully, again, we know that'll change, but just always think of your, if you're a man, think in of your anti-cars, think of your body as some type of machinery, whether it's your PC, your laptop, an engine. Like, all of those things have to be working collectively in order to remain, in that balanced state. So
So, can you tell us a little bit about your book?
yeah, Love's Pursuit Journey to Wellness. Well, and I don't know if you know this, but it hit number one. So I am considered a number one international best-selling author, which is really
Sweet.
awesome. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of great reviews, and the stories are resonating with individuals. I actually had someone reach out to me who is an addict, and I don't like saying it, but I'm just using the term that he used. But he is a substance abuser, and is finding that the book is really helping him, and that's taking it to his AA class. But the book has a total of seven, I like to call them burgeoning souls, have seven individuals in it, including myself, and we are entrepreneurs. So we talk about our life from where we used to be to where we are today. And with that said, we talk about a lot of different traumas. We have an individual who has been molested and by her best friend's brother. We have someone who is quadriplegic. He was just wrestling with a buddy and ended up breaking his neck. That left him paralyzed. We have someone who dealt with church hurt, not being accepted by the church and all of the formalities that made him feel that he wasn't good enough and that God wasn't going to love him or accept him, and that he was going to go straight to hell, and how he had to deal with that. We talk about a young lady who committed or attempted to commit suicide so many times due to self-hate, due to racism, due to a lot of social inequalities, due to police brutality. And of course, we have someone touching about divorce and that type of hurt that you deal with when someone doesn't crave or want you anymore. So it's very intimate, it's very powerful. And I always tell people, just get a box of tissues. Cause I mean, there's some funny parts in there, because I kind of talk about my relationship with my mom, and how she disciplined us, and she was a single mom, and how my family was such a huge support system. But we also talk about some deep, intimate, raw issues, you know what I'm saying, and how we overcame those issues.
So, can you take us through some of the stories?
Sure. Yeah. So, in the very beginning, I just talk about journey. So, journey is something that I'm encouraging people to embrace. Oftentimes when we look at journeys, it's so often that we can kind of pull out the bad, but we have to also be able to embrace um, um, the good things about it, but also embrace the bad things. So, what I'm trying to say in that is that we celebrate when good things happen, but we don't celebrate when what we consider bad things. So you can call them bad, you can call them uncomfortable. I like to identify them as uncomfortable. We have to be able to celebrate those times as well, because there are times, and I don't know if you believe in God or anything like that, but I do
Oh,
believe
yes,
God, right?
most definitely.
So sometimes a no or something going awry is not always, in my opinion, the devil just don't want you to have what you want. Sometimes it's more so a nudge and say, you know what, you're not ready yet, you're not prepared. And so continue to work at this. And when you're ready, I'll open that door for you. So just trying to allow people to think differently about making decisions that don't necessarily yield them the outcome that they want.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, I've dreamed of making it big, being
Mhm.
rich, the whole 9 yards. And I think back, if I had, say, reached that goal 10, 20 years ago, or even maybe a little bit longer,
Mhm.
um, I would have been foolish
Yeah.
and I probably wouldn't have it.
Mhm.
So I do feel like God's preparing me and to experience the things that I experience. And you get so upset when you go through those down times and you
Yeah.
think, woe is me. But then if you just stop and think,
Mhm.
you have those low points in your life, so you appreciate the higher points in life.
Yeah, yeah. That's good because I talk about in the books I talk about opposite, right? In order to know how to love, you have to also experience hurt. And everybody
Mhm.
think that love is always this thing of I like to say, you know, a dozen of roses. It always feel good. It's just sweetness and sugar and butterflies. But no, I actually break down the different components of love. Like, love is protection. I talk about how my mom would not allow me to do things and how she disciplined us and the time that she actually spanked me. And I looked at her like, woman, you are crazy. And but she would say, oh, well, I'm doing this because I'm loving you. And I'm like, this does not feel like love. Like, no, let me turn you around, bend you over and spank you. Tell me if it's love. But as you become an adult, you realize it. It's like, oh, that was a way that she tried to create certain boundaries to make sure that I can actually remember this particular lesson and not do it again. So again, that's love is protection. And so then you have, love sometimes could be like a beautiful mess. And I reference in a book that in the Bible, God didn't really talk about love until almost, I want to say it was the 21st chapter, 21st chapter in Genesis, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But, and in my head, I would think like, why did he not talk about love in a very beginning? Why was that not in the first chapter? And then when he decided to talk about love, he was asking someone to actually sacrifice, I believe it was Abraham that sacrificed his son to prove that
Mhm.
he loved him. Now, your son, imagine you sacrificing your son to show your love for God. And so I kind of describe that as just being, or oxymoron or a beautiful mess. But love is this vast, this vast bucket of emotions, and they're always gray for me. It's not black, it's not white, it's just shades of gray. And we
Yeah.
have to define what love is for us because it's so gray. There's a total of 21 definitions of what love is or what love can be, but you have to identify what that is for you so you can then come up with your principles and your beliefs and your value systems.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Bible will tell you that if you don't discipline your children, then it basically says that you hate them
Hmm.
because you're allowing your child to become this awful person.
Hmm.
And it's going to go out and do whatever they want, going to cause whatever kind of havoc and everything. But if you want them to grow up to be somebody that is admired or respected, then
Hmm.
you have to teach them those boundaries.
Hmm.
Spare the rod, spoil the child. And you know I want people to understand, I whooped my kids, but I also knew you had to take that little breath before you got out of hand, and you don't hit them with your hands.
Hmm.
You don't beat them up.
Hmm.
Whip them with that belt, or like my dad used to do me with a stick.
Hmm.
But within reason.
Right.
You don't want to just totally break their spirit completely.
Hmm.
At least that's my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that. That's the way I look
Well,
at it.
So here's the thing, and you're absolutely right when it comes to that. So in the book, we talk about the difference between reaction and response.
Mhm.
And so when you react, oftentimes it stems from emotion. So what you were just explaining is that when you're getting ready to spank your child, and if you're upset and you just spanking them just to be spanking them, and there's no purpose, there's no intent behind it, it's just an emotion, then it can get real ugly real quick, and it can kind of get out of hand, right?
Mhm.
Because we're being
Yeah.
from an emotional place. But if you sometimes we, and I do it all the time, sometimes we have to put ourselves in timeout as an adult,
Yep.
saying I need to kind of cool down, then come back and implement whatever discipline that you need to implement, but then do it with purpose. So when I did get a spanking, it always came with a lesson, and so she would always tell me why she was spanking me, so I don't necessarily go back at there and repeat the same behavior. But on top of that, not only did I learn from what she was explaining to me, but I also was learning the house rules and the importance of having integrity and being respectful of
Mhm.
whatever rules that your parents kind of implement in the home.
And I bet nobody messed with her baby either, right?
Oh no, no. I can tell you some stories about that. But no, like, yeah, when she protected her kids, she protected her kids.
I can beat the hell out of him, but don't nobody else better touch him, right?
Right, right.
And so you got all these different steps to try to get to overcome these obstacles.
Mhm,
What's like one of the first things you want to sit down and tell someone that's okay? Like we talked before we got on air about how I've got spinal problems and had to go through what I'm going through,
mhm,
and which is of course an obstacle. But there's other types of obstacles out there. I mean,
mhm.
of course, you got to approach everything a little bit differently, but generically, can you kind of go through the steps?
Yeah, so I have what I call like a 4R, like the letter R, um, comprehensive wellness model. And so the step, and get this, you may laugh. So I came up with this model while I was depressed, like struggling through the worst of the worst. And that depression happened because I went through a divorce that I did not want. But there's sometimes when you have to make peace with something that you may love that may not necessarily love you back in the way that you love them. And so the first step in that was just sitting down and reconnecting with myself. And I don't think we do enough of that.
Right.
And so reconnecting with yourself is basically means spend less time with others and spend more time with yourself. I tend to do that in a very early morning because I don't like the distractions. I have the birds, I have the trees, I have the fragrance of the forest or the trees that's in the back of my yard, or the sand or the clay. And I just kind of connect with nature and connect with my higher self. And so once you connect with yourself, you start to feel some things internally. Then once you move from that reconnection stage, you just want to kind of remember, especially if you're dealing with anxiety or depression, this will really work. You just want to remember the good times. So I just start reflecting, because my grandmother had passed away by this time, and I was reflecting on the many great memories. I mean, we used to go fishing on the bank. We call it the bank in Miami. And we used to take cane poles. So I don't know if people still fish with cane poles or not, but we used to get the cane poles and we'll tie the little string and everything and we'll go fishing. And those were some of the amazing, precious moments that I remember. And there were times that I didn't want to go, right? But I did it because I was going to spend time with grandma.
Oh,
And so I will remember those things. And again, once I start remember, I start laughing more, right? So now it's kind of getting me a little bit more out of that depressed state. Then when I got past the remembering, and this is the very important phase of it, is the reflection. You start reflecting on your life, your do's and your don'ts, the things that you did well, the things that you would change, the things that you didn't necessarily do so well. Do I need to restructure, because we're ever evolving? So do I need to restructure my values, my principles, and who am I and what does my name stand for? And so again, the book kind of walks you through this. Is a lot of different practical exercises to really challenge your thought process, because when we can change the mind, it is easier to change behavior and manage the emotion. So the goal is to always start with the mind. And that's where I talk about the reconnection, the remembering, and the reflecting, because all of that happened in the mind, right? And so
Hmm.
once you get that mind stable, you can actually reboot yourself. So the last R, which is number 4, is to reboot. After you come out the fueling stage, because you know the reflection, that's where you're going to get all your power. You're going to get everything running, and everything going to be good and warm. Your mind is all ready and exercise. And then you just go to reboot, and that's when you go to your plan of action.
You know, you talked about earlier getting to know yourself again. I found that when I tried to rush into another relationship after my divorce from my first wife, and of course that didn't work out
Mm-hmm.
because I still didn't know who I was anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
know, spent nearly 20 years living for other people and forgetting who I was. And so I think it's important for people to take some time for yourself before you get into a relationship. You,
Mm-hmm.
when you know who you are, then you're able to convey that to other people instead of trying to find that out while you're trying to get to know somebody.
Yeah, you know, I completely agree with that. And it makes it easier on you. And not only easier on you, easier on that other person. They shouldn't be trying to really figure you out. You
Hmm.
supposed to, this is what I do. I have my manual, I have my blueprint. And when I go into my relationships, I literally hand them the manual. And you know what I say? Because I'm confident in the work that I did. I say, here's the manual. What you do with it is completely up to you. You know what I like, what I don't like, you know, what I want to explore, what I don't want to explore. And I'm not saying that any of these things listed aren't negotiable, because when you talk about partnership, there's going to be a give and take, right?
Oh
But
yeah,
at
of
the end of
course.
the day, this is my manual. And there's no question that you should be able or not be able to ask me, because you have the good book. You have the good book. And I think that's what I think a lot of times we don't do that. I don't think we sit down and come up with our blueprint and understand our blueprint. But the blueprint is the foundation. When you're building a house, you need the foundation. Now, what you do on the outside and you need to remodel, you know, you can do that, right? But that foundation is going to be that foundation.
Oh yeah. Well, it's great when you can add a few things to your life
Yeah.
along the line. Um, when I met my current wife, and we've been together 5 years.
Mhm.
I took some time off to really get to know me,
Mhm.
and just kind of rediscovered the things that I really loved,
Mhm.
and then she introduced me to things that I didn't realize that I really liked, and now my life is so much fuller, and she says the same thing about me. you know
Mhm.
so yeah, take that time, get
Yeah.
to know yourself again.
Please, though. It's just it's so vital for your soul journey. Is so vital for your purpose. When we talk about walking in that purpose and knowing that purpose, and I think, you know, we have to, in my opinion, I think there's just certain things that have to be achieved before we leave this earth, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like we all have a task here to achieve before we move on to the next life. But just think about it, like, you know what metaphor would probably help? When you go on the airplane and they say put on your mask first, I think that would be the first thing that kind of comes to mind. Take care of yourself first so you can take care of your kids, because they benefit from your happiness, they benefit from your love, they benefit from your positivity. And if you're not bringing that into the house, and if you are the lead or the head of the household, not to say women can't be the head of the household, I'm just specifically speaking with you, you know, they all benefit from that because it automatically pours into them without you even knowing.
Oh yeah, you are definitely their who they look to. The whole family does. Whoever's in
Yeah.
charge of the household,
Mhm.
they look at you, and they see how you react to things. They see how you behave, and a lot of times that's what they emulate, what they
Mhm.
see. You know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So do you have some success stories that you can share?
Well, I do, and thank God for them. Thank God for 'em. So, in addition to my book, of being the number one best-selling author, I just last week, my dissertation was well, let me be specific because there's different journeys and milestones with dissertation. So, my dissertation topic and plan of action was approved by the committee in the university. And so now I can go into that into that stage of writing my literature review, but just trying to get past the committee and your chair in the university is just a huge success. So I'm excited about that. So I also had an opportunity to speak with organizations. So my research is going to be on the kidneys, since I am a kidney patient, kidneys in the African American community, because there's not enough awareness and not enough knowledge around that. And for the most part, we are the ones, not just African American minorities, are more susceptible to kidney disease. And according to statistics, roughly about 73, 74% of African Americans and minorities are walking around with chronic kidney disease and don't even know it. Yeah. It's,
That's incredible. Oh
it's
my
huge.
God.
Yeah. And a lot of it is because of our diets. And also because some of us are predisposed to diabetes. Diabetes kind of run rapid. So anyone that has diabetes or hypertension or have a history of it, I'm a kidney advocate. So I go out to different communities and faith-based institutions and organizations, and I educate them about it. I always tell them to go and get your renal panel done. Oftentimes the physicians don't do renal panels. There's a difference. Sometimes they'll do a screening, right? And ask you, are you experiencing this? Are you having these symptoms? But if you check no, and if you're not having those symptoms, then they're not going to ask for a renal panel. And you may not be displaying those symptoms, but may have chronic kidney disease. You know,
Mm.
so think of kidney disease as a silent killer, just like high blood pressure. So anyone that has that type of history, I always encourage them when they go back to their doctor, ask, hey, how is my creatinine level? Or can you order me a renal panel? But usually, oftentimes, if you do have kidney disease, they can detect it in your urine when you give that urine specimen.
Mhm.
But again, sometimes it could be in the early stages and you're not spilling protein in your urine and it's not detected. So, that's one of the things that I do that brings me great joy, is just educating people about chronic kidney disease and how they can try to avoid it. Because once you have kidney disease, a lot of times it's not reversible. And they do have some cases of acute kidney disease where people may take a lot of ibuprofens or things of that nature. But oftentimes when you are diagnosed with kidney disease, it's like forever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, most insurances nowadays, private insurances, should I say, they will let you have at least one free physical a year.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I encourage anybody that's listening, man, woman, you go to your doctor and you get that physical.
Hmm.
And you know, irregardless if they offer that or not, go get it done because it could cost you a lot more in the long run.
Okay. Yep, I agree. I agree. Especially, I not women tend, again, I'm only going off research and studies. It shows that women go to the doctors a lot more than men. And we tend not to get our physicals and listen, go get checked, man. I'm telling you, when I hear the experiences that people have who are on dialysis, it is not pretty. Like, it is not pretty. And not only that, once you come off of dialysis, to say if you do have a kidney transplant, you are on tons of medication. I mean, you're on medication, a lot of medications too when you're on dialysis. But when you're on dialysis, there's water restrictions, there's phosphate restrictions, there's potassium restrictions. It's like there's just so much that you have to deal with and manage, and you just don't want to go down that road.
Oh, I know that being diabetic, you have to watch your how many carbs you eat and
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. There's so many things that can kick off, either your sugar jumping or dropping.
Yes.
It is a pain in the butt trying to pay attention to that day after day, every meal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, every once in a while, I'm like, you know what, the heck with it. I'm going to give me a burger and fries, and I don't give a flip. But
Yeah.
for the most part, man, it is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it is. It is. My mom's diabetic, and my grandfather was diabetic, and she inherited it from him. So that completely skipped me, which I am excited about. But from what she experiences, is definitely a difficult thing. And sugar is addictive anyway. It's just and the sugar is literally in everything. Is in your ketchup, is in your mustard, is in your barbecue sauce.
Hmm.
I mean, it's everywhere. So trying to manage that sugar intake, I mean, the carbs which turn into simple sugars, because a lot of people don't know that carbs turn into simple sugar. Like you just, I mean, it's just a lot. That's all I'm gonna say. A lot.
I mean, you even have to be careful eating too much fruit
Mm-hmm.
because it'll
Yep.
make your sugar jump.
Yep. That's that
Yeah.
simple sugar. Uh-huh. Yep. And although fruits are good for you usually, but when you're a diabetic, like you have to literally watch everything that goes into your mouth.
Yeah. And then, once you get on these regimens of all these medications, people, I'm telling you, you have to go in about every 3 months to get all the urine, the blood, everything. They always check my kidneys, my liver, the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards. And uh, I'm gonna say another thing. It's very, very important to watch your diet.
Mhm.
I actually lost about 60, almost 70 pounds, and that
Mhm.
helped a lot.
Yep.
But you still have to be careful. It's easy to put that back on again. And knock on wood, for the last several years, I've stayed pretty steady. But these things, just take the time to take care of yourself.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely. And I would just let you know, so those who are struggling with trying to manage that diet, I don't go deep into the book about diet, but I do give some of the tips in there. It's called watch You Are What You Eat. And so I go into just really talking about marketing and advertising and a lot of the things that are put on the box that sometimes aren't representative of you. And right. And so the purpose of marketing and advertising when it comes to food is to kind of get you to buy it, right? To lure you in is very
Mhm.
persuasive. And so really step back and make sure you're not buying it because it resonated with you emotionally because you're not happy with your body image, because a lot of times that's how a lot of things get sold, right? Because they're advertising something or you want to look a certain way, and so they put the packaging together in a way that it really tears away at whatever little self-esteem that you have in reference to yourself. So be very critical of that. And so feel free to kind of just read through that. I touch a little on how ingredients are set up as well. And so look, when you read the ingredients on the label, whatever is first is what's the most amount is in that particular package. So if the first thing says fructose, that means it probably contains, not as probably it does, it contains way more sugar in there than any of those other things. So when you read it, although it may say vitamin D or vitamin K or more vitamin this, when you really look at it, you'll see that more vitamin that they're advertising is literally the last three vitamins listed on the ingredients list. So really pay attention to that. I always tell people shop on the outside of the aisles. I mean, when you go in, you usually see the produce, which is in a cold set, and then that'll lead you to like the meat section oftentimes, and the meat section will oftentimes lead to the dairy section. So those are the things that don't have a lot of preservatives in them. So when you shop in the middle aisles, those are the stuff that more than likely are going to do damage or harm to your body. And look at it this way: it's also where they house the Clorox, the Tide, the Gain. So look at it from that
Yeah,
perspective. That's what you
seriously.
technically kind of putting it in your body. So of course, anything is okay with moderation, but if you are consuming a lot of food that's in the middle aisles, more than likely at some point, it's going to start affecting you along the way down the line.
Well, I totally agree about that. You are what you eat. That's why I told my kids to quit eating airheads.
I'm gonna have to use that because my
Brum,
nephew
bum.
eats a lot of airheads. I'm gonna use that one. That was funny.
All right, so we've touched on mental health, we've and your physical health. Of course, we have to touch on emotional health.
Mhm.
So, do you talk about that, get in depth in that in your book?
Yeah, so emotional health, I personally only touch on it a little bit. Jennifer, who is one of the young ladies, she kind of dive into it and the battles in which she had to go through after her divorce, and her husband, cheating on her or with someone else and wouldn't sleep with her, or make love to her in an intimate way, and how it kind of destroyed her. But what I would say when it comes to emotions, that would be a really, really great thing to write down. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's actually a book out there that I read where I kind of got that motto from: do not sweat the small stuff. And so for me, I don't take a whole lot of things personally like I used to in the past. I just don't internalize it. I don't have any room for it. And when we internalize things, before you know it, we become, what I like to say, our own worst critic. And we harbor that stuff and we hold it in, and it eats away at your mind and your emotions like cancer almost. Like it just slowly eats away at you. So release as much of it as you can, but it's easier said than done, because I don't want you to think it is easy. But every time you are faced with something that you are internalizing, if when you find yourself asking the question, maybe 3 times, for me, when I ask myself that question 3 times, then I try to twist it in a way that is going to be more positive than negative.
Well, and this is just my opinion. I
Mhm.
think that social media has a lot to do with your emotions and your mental health, because people get nasty on there,
Mhm.
and everybody likes to play the victim. Let's see what we can say is you're doing against me or whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of the stuff that I really get into on social media, of course, I like to promote the podcast,
Mhm.
but I get into the comic books and sci-fi and stuff like that. Even that community, people are ugly to each other.
Yeah,
It's
I would never.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I would never understand why people are well. The only conclusion that I've come to is that hurt people turn around and hurt other people, and so sometimes people do that to help them feel better about themselves, is to put other people down. To
Mhm.
me, it's hard to do that because I wasn't raised in that type of environment. My mom didn't allow us to um, judge each other or beat up on each other or really attack the community. Our home was actually more so something that was a safe haven for people that was going through stuff. So with that said, um, I just really, really encourage people to deal with whatever it is that you are dealing with. And sometimes you need help with that. And, I always say reach out to your families and see if they can kind of support you through that. But sometimes our family is just as broken as we do. So I
Yeah.
always recommend either a life coach or a wellness coach. But if it runs deep, then I recommend going to see a licensed clinician or a therapist. But we have to hold ourselves accountable when we're dealing with that stuff. But yeah, social media, like you said, is one of those things that can be very negative. And even me, like when I first started my business and I was doing things, and I was like, people aren't engaging, they're not responding back to me, they're not liking my profile. And I can remember a buddy of mine was like, dude, I went through that. Don't care about likes. And once I did that, I started feeling better. And guess what happened a few months later? Somebody hit me, DM me, hey man, I'll be watching what you doing and I love what you're doing. And I'm like, bro, well, why you ain't commenting if you like what I'm doing? But again, that's what I want, right? And we can't make people do what we want them to do, but we can't control them, but we can manage ourselves. So that was part of me managing my emotions.
Yeah, we do kind of like to stroke our own egos. It's like you want that person to like my post, But I'm like you. At first, it kind of bothered me, and then you know what? There's so many posts that I look at. I don't like either,
Mm,
but I enjoy them. I don't get on there as often, other than my postings and stuff
mhm.
like that. Kind of see what activities going on. But it can be a great tool as well. So I
Yeah.
don't want to say social media is just all bad. Um, a lot of the people that I get on my show, I reach out through social media and get them to come on. And I just, you can't police everybody, but if you're listening to this, please just be nice when you're on social media, and use it for what it's supposed to be social.
Yeah. 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 Listen, I just got on social media 3 years ago. So this Facebook and Twitter, like all this stuff is new for me and it's overwhelming, right? Because I stayed away from it because of that reason. And I wasn't ready to really expose myself because when you expose yourself, even like writing this book, you have to prepare for criticism, right? And so I'm still dealing with that because I'm like, oh my God, what when I get my first negative critique and criticism, how am I going to emotionally manage that, handle that? And it hasn't happened yet, but I'm preparing myself for when it happens. And so that's all you can do, right? You can just try to prepare yourself, but you can't stop people from being mean and nasty. I don't think it has no place in the world. I don't understand why people do it, but they do it.
If people would just take the time to get to know other people
Hmm.
and just, reach out, be nice.
Hmm.
I've gotten so many great friends doing that. You know,
Hmm.
doing this show, I get people on, and you treat people like you'd want to be treated.
Yeah.
Treat them with respect. Get to know who they are. Let them know who you are. Judge people from the inside.
Right. Hmm. And one of the reasons I started the same project podcast is because I wanted to just bridge gaps with so much going on in our world, especially if you're from North America or the US, you kind of know, well, probably everybody knows what's going on now, all that craziness that we've had in this world. But it's to just really create a platform to bridge gaps. And even though I'm African American, and I think we have, you know, a right and a cause with Black Lives Matters and things of that nature because we've been dealing with that for so many years, and there is a place for it. We still need to have conversations where we meet in the middle, right? And so
Oh yeah.
that's my goal, able to bring again religion, ethnicity, races, different cultures and genders together. Because when I listen to people's stories, I realize for the most part we tend to go through the same thing. Now, what was the catalyst oftentimes is different. But when we sit down and we hash out our feelings and emotions and what happened, you like, oh my God, just like when you were talking about your surgeon, I was like, oh my God, I've been through that indirectly, through my ex-spouse, but I've been through that. You realize that, you know what, we are more alike than we are different.
That's exactly my point. I've tried to stress that, you don't know what the other person has gone through. I went through bullying through junior high and high school to the point where I wanted to just end it all.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and to be shunned from, the groups and stuff around school because you were different. I mean, yes, I didn't experience the same kind of prejudices that, a minority person would, necessarily go through, but it's a
Mhm.
prejudice nonetheless. So yeah, I try to steer away from politics and things like that, but sometimes a conversation is needed, and just like you said, people still need to sit down and have a talk,
Yes. Yes.
and stop lumping everybody in the same category. For
Yeah.
heaven's sakes, we're not all the same.
Mm-mm. No, we're individuals. We're unique, special individuals, and that's what I love about just everybody. We all have our own different perspectives and our own experiences, and what you've been through and what you share maybe although similar to mine, but you might have handled it a lot differently, a lot more um, healthier than I have, or was planning to move forward with and handling it. And so, with that said, man, I'm always open for discussions and conversations because another what they said that cliche another's man trash is another man's treasure. Is that how it goes? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just may have the information you need to bring you through that storm.
Yeah. By golly, if I'm done something wrong, just come to me and tell me,
Yeah.
and talk to me like you'd want me to talk to you, you
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
But I always say I'm not prejudiced. Some of my best friends are Houston Texans fans, so.
Mm. Whew. Yeah.
Hey, I got the dad jokes. Bring him on, bring him on.
That was good.
uh, so you said you got your podcast, you got your book. Tell us about the website and how they can like find everything.
Yeah, so on my social media platforms, you can catch me at Loves Pursuit ATL. ATL is short for Atlanta. So it's LOVESPURSUIT ATL. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. And my website is lovespursuitatl.net, not .com, but lovespursuitatl.net. And if anyone goes to the website and decide you want to order a book, please do so. I'm giving out the code SANE, SANE. You will be privy to some free gifts that I'm giving away, or a gift. It just depends. It's all kind of random that I'm just giving away some free things in addition to the purchase of the book. I truly, truly know that the book will uplift and inspire a group of people who are really struggling and trying to find themselves and trying to find their purpose.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of the things that you've talked about today, I've gone through in one way or another in my own life, or I know people that have. Yeah, I know how it feels when you think that the world's just coming to an end and there's no end in sight, that you just don't think that things are ever going to get better. Believe me, I can testify things get better.
Do.
There's websites, phone numbers. All you got to do, like, everybody out there has got a stinking cell phone.
Yeah.
Get on that cell phone, look in, put it in the Google search, and you can find somebody to talk to. I
That's true.
encourage you to do that, please. Mm.
That's very true, and not trying to take from that serious moment, because that's true. Reach out, reach out and ask for support. But I couldn't help but to kind of chuckle that you called cell phone stinking. So now look at my cell phone today. I'm like, you stinking cell phone. So that is going to be that's going to be the word of the day, stinking.
You
Yeah.
know, there's times that I'll forget my phone at home, and we'll get down the road, and I'm like, ah, I forgot my phone. The wife's like, "What, do you want to turn around and go back and get it?" I said, "Hell no. That's a good excuse not to have to answer that stupid thing. I left it at home." You know what? Turn that thing off every once in a while. Put it down and
Yes.
engage with people.
Mhm.
That's another thing. There's so many things in this life that separate us.
Mhm.
This, yeah, okay, granted, I'm not making light of the pandemic whatsoever, but we are here doing the 6 foot social distancing thing. You're wearing a mask. You can't tell what the person's real emotions are off their face. And I hate these stupid things, but those self checkouts at the store.
Mhm.
I would rather wait an extra 10, 15 minutes to go and get to the cashier so I can engage with somebody.
Mhm.
But if we're not in a rush to get out the door, we got our faces right in that phone. Put that thing down and talk to somebody. That's how we'll actually start to heal, is if we get to talk to each other.
Yep.
So I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I used to be a preacher, so I might get off on a tangent.
That was a good soapbox. Yeah,
So
that was a
I'm
good soap.
serious though. We
Mhm.
really need to really talk to each other, not
Yeah.
not through social media, because those people on Twitter, they, believe it or not, they don't have the same opinion as a lot of other people out there do.
Mhm.
Let's sit down and talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of trying
and
to
it's
get
very
clap.
true. We're the only mammal that has a voice that can talk. You ever knew that? Like, you can look at any other mammal and they don't have the capacity to do what we can do. Use it for good. Words have
That's right.
power. Use it for good. So exercise your positivity and run away from the negativity.
Amen. That's the only way things will change. Is like that saying goes. It's an old Native American saying: is you got two wolves inside of you. One's good and one's bad. The
Mhm.
one that's going to survive is the one you feed the most.
I like that.
So let's fill his life with some positivity. All right. So one more time before we go, how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at lovespursuitatl.net. Remember, you have a special code saying SANE and get your free gift if you would purchase the book. That is good for you today. Probably be good for you, probably for the whole entire week. And in any social media platforms, Loves Pursue ATL. You can reach out to me, DM me. I'm very engaging. I tend to engage. I'm pretty sure I respond to you within 24 hours, pretty much. But yeah, reach out to me if you have any questions. You need any type of guidance. I don't have a problem in responding to you.
We will definitely put those links in the description. So whether you're watching this or you're listening to it, just go to the description and you will find the links so you can go directly to them. Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing some positivity to us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right. And for everybody out there that's either watching or listening, thank you. Take some of this advice and please, if you're having any problems, find someone that you can talk to. Until the next one. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, because it's only through your support that we're able to continue doing the things that we do. And until the next one, have a great day.